Hello, I am Natalia Wojtkowiak and you are listening to the Manage the Problem podcast. I create this place for owners and decision makers of small and medium-sized manufacturing companies. In this podcast, I talk openly and specifically about the problems of production industry. I explain complex issues related to production management in simple language. I advise on how to create optimized processes and effective teams. This is podcast created by practitioner for practitioners. Let me be your guide and the Manage the Problem boat that will take us to the waters of practical knowledge and proven solutions. I hope you are ready. Manage the problem. Let's imagine, or maybe you remember this day, you bought a car. But not a common car. Your imagined car, dream car that was a reward for years of hard work, sacrifice and perseverance. It's parked there, a Mustang GT or Ferrari 488 GTB or Lamborghini Huracan. And instead of being in the garage, it stays outside all year round. You don't change the oil in it, you don't wash it, you don't service it, and in fact you don't even drive it. Would it be like that? After all, we both know that you would read the label of the oil you poured into more carefully than the label of milk flakes for your children, and you would remember the service data better than your birthday of your wife. So why? Tell me why, when you spend so much money on new automation, or if you already have it, do you not take care of it and prevent failures and the stops? Can you afford it? If so, okay, this episode is not for you. However, if you want to reduce the maintenance and operating cost of your production automation by up to 30% per year, turn the sound up. Let's start. Manage the problem. Total productive maintenance. But in the production, we call it just TPM. He is more than what the industry says about him, who on the other hand, doesn't always appreciate its effects, isn't always able to effectively implement in their work environment, and who sometimes forgets about its impact. Why? Because TPM worked before the fact, not after the fact. And if there was no problem, there was no hero to solve it. So, there is no point. What can I say? Not every superhero wears a cap, especially in production near to machines. You know, safety first. Okay, but you are probably wondering what this TPM is. In the context of production, it is a system of activities that are intended to prevent failures, machine downtimes, and support the production of good quality products. So, from the financial point of view of running the company, TPM allows you to save money, a lot of money. As I said just now, up to 30% per year. Even better information for you will be a fact that very often these activities are cheap or low cost. So, you implement a system that doesn't require large investments, allows you to save money, maintains your investments in the form of production lines and tools in a good condition, and if develop it in the right way, it can even improve a factor such as safety. And we both know that is the most expensive factors in the material, image, and moral aspects. Sounds great. Where is the catch? In my beloved consequences of action. You know, if you want to implement TPM after listening this podcast, you will know how to do it correctly and how to avoid stupid or basic mistakes. However, it is difficult to implement TPM into the daily work routine and to make employees aware that is something important and necessary. And the real problem is consequences in maintaining and developing the system, because the result of improving machine availability by 5, maybe 10% isn't quick, especially at the beginning. But developing it and achieving subsequent stages is often more difficult and time consuming, and this demotivates and our improvement dopamine drops and doesn't rise anymore. I start from the end. which is the most difficult because it concerns people, and the most important because it concerns people, and making this implementation lives its own life. And I want to be relevant when I say that you, as your owner and manager, must know what TPM gives your company on the macro scale, and you must know what TPM will give your operators, leaders, and technicians. What means in the micro scale. And from my own experience, I can guarantee you that if you skip the micro scale, you will very quickly feel it on the macro scale. I'm explaining to you now. In my understanding, a macro scale consists of cost reduction, elimination of failures and downtimes, increase in production efficiency, and increase in safety. The micro scale consists of daily or cyclical care of machine as a part of workplace, and the awareness that they means operators, take care of the machine because it's their part of duties, but also the understanding that it's a result of their result. It means machine result is their result too. TPM often encounters resistance from a production team, and it is this resistance that kills it, like many other initiatives, because it is perceived as unnecessary additional work, often faultless paperwork. And if you actually implement TPM in your production as a mindless procedure, it will quickly become a non-existing procedure. And without systematic cleaning of machines, inspection and replacement of quickly wearing parts, plan and well-conducted machine inspection and several other activities, you will very quickly observe or are already experiencing frequent machine stops, breakdowns and declines in the quality of manufactured elements. Is your OE dropping faster than Lambo accelerates 200? Or has it never gotten close to expected 85%? Are you incurring higher and higher production cost and nothing is starting to go smoothly in calculations and deadlines? And now you can see we start talking about macro management again, but we started with micro. And I told you, you skip the micro scale, you will see result in the macro scale. When I implement TPM in a companies, from very beginning I involve production manager, shifts leaders, and after a short time, but very quickly, all operators. Managers must be aware of what TPM is, what is supposed to change in the process, but it is their responsibility to ensure that these activities translate into results, no operators. Operators must know that checking, cleaning, minor repairs are important because they directly affect their work tools, their workplace, and therefore comfort and safety. I said comfort and safety? Yes, because the comfort beyond the dictionary understanding is also that what works is undistributed by constantly failures and alarms that to be neatly approached, turned off, checked and repaired. The lens is stuck. The result isn't achieved. Nervous and rush begin. These aren't comfortable work conditions. Wouldn't you agree? We can understand the topic of safety at work in many different ways, physically and mentally. And TPM also ensures that the workplace is safety in these aspects. By checking safety system that improve certain elements of the machine or work with the protect against accident. It also affects your mental peace when you know that you control and prevent. During training for production team where TPMs implement from scratch, I often compare it to taking care of house. You take care of place where you rest. You clean it, make minor repairs, buy replacement parts that make life there easier, such as light bulbs or toilet paper. You make sure that is as safety as possible, that everything functions properly. The same is true of the production line, which is the workplace of production team. It is the place where they spend 40 hours a week, a place that allows them to have and maintain their homes. Why not take care of them, at least to some extent, as prevently? This topic is a core of TPM, but not only, and that is why I start with them and we attach so much importance to their reasonable and commitment implementation together with production team. Because, as I said at the beginning, their resistance can quickly kill any initiative. And it arises from a sense of rejection and misunderstanding of topic, but also from overload. I think that I have discussed the human aspect as a backbone of this method precisely and understandably. So now, with the clear consistency, I can move to the technical aspect of TPM, which is the heart of entire method. I'm glad you are still listening to this episode of Manage the Problem podcast. Let me develop this project. Recommend this podcast to another specialist in a field of production, management and process and optimization. Follow on Spotify and YouTube. Give 5 stars and thumb up. So little for you, so much for me. Thank you. Okay, let's back to the episode. And here I must explain a certain understatement, which is often repeated at universities and then naturally goes to the work environment, and it is a sense wrong. The fact that TPM is something on the border between 5S and checklist. So we carried out 5S on the production line and then we checked with the checklist whether it has been maintained. No, these are two terms and concepts that are confused. TPM with 5S takes responsibility and care for workplace. The checklists are intended to support the order in which processes is carried out and in its accuracy. I don't want to make a religion of TPM because it's just a tool that's supposed to help us work with machines, but perceiving TPM only through the prism of order and checklist distorts the whole idea, and what is the worst, it's turns into the little bureaucracy monster that discourages people from cooperation. Before you start doing 5S, checklist and other things, stop, observe, check the data and analyze what you see, okay? Check the load on your machines. Do they work 8 hours or maybe 24 hours? Why it's so important? Because if they are in a constant motion and they break down, it's very likely that it will be very expensive failure. Estimate how much an hour of machines failure cost you. This is very important information in terms of macro management in a factory. Check the failure rate of your machines. How many breakdowns per machine occur per year, per month? This is very important data that will tell you which machine should be given special care and observation and in what exact aspects. Check interchangeability. If one machine fails, that's happened, we'll be able to use another one in a company, or maybe your neighbor's company has identically one and you could use it. Check repairability. Will your technicians or engineers be able to repair it themselves, or will external service be needed? Check the failure to load ratio over time. What is the ratio of failure remove time to failure occurrence? A failure's relativity, easy to fix and the recovery time short, or are they major downtimes lasting hours, maybe even days? Once you have such data, you need to analyze it. You need to know which machines and their areas are the most susceptible to failure. You should know the reasons of these failures and their duration. It is also worth considering the classification of difficulty of getting rid of them and being aware of how much it actually costs the company. I also encourage you to make a list of spare parts and their cost and delivery time. And I must add that this stage of determination is very important to really evaluate it honestly. Because one of the most common words in production is who is to repair this failure. It is responsibility production or maybe maintenance. The cost of spare parts are on the production side or maybe maintenance. And many other topics that disturb the company peace and good cooperation. Only now can these activities be divided into TPM activities 1, 2, 3 and more. What that means? TPM 1 are activities that are performed every day or at the beginning of each shift. TPM 2 is a cyclical but less frequent inspection. Every week, every 2 weeks. TPM 3 is even less frequent inspection, once a month or quarter. Here I won't tell you which screw or robot arm you checked every day and which once a month. This is what you should infer from data you have collected. However, the rule is simple. whatever is defective or has a large impact of the final quality of product in your line should be controlled. While we are on the subject of the exchanges, there are two important and underappreciated topics related to this. The first is the storage of the spare parts. I also recommend that this warehouse will be close to the production line, organized in a way that is understandable to everyone and constantly stocked. Why? There is a parts are stocked. It is the waste of space in the production. I heard this kind of opinions. Such a place shortens the time of purchasing parts from warehouse on the line. It contains parts that are most often used for replacement, and the people working with such spare parts warehouse know what is where. This translates into the reduction of failure time and therefore savings. Also, I am a great advocate for large production line, not mentioned for automatic sparks, for each area to have technicians and maintenance engineer who would be responsible for analysis of failures and changeovers data, create and develop of TPM and carrying out TPM 2 and higher, more demanding, and the supply and order the spare parts warehouse. In my experience, this greatly support the work of line and processes and give a sense of orders and security. Second very important topic that supports production work and TPM itself, it's a planned and well thought out machine maintenance. Let it be a rule in your company that everyone knows, for example, during 2 weeks holidays and the last 2 weeks of the year, maintenance and the through inspection of machines are carried out every year. I have seen many actions of this type in the companies, and regardless of their size and budget, a common mistake was a lack of specific plan and preparation. We disassemble the machine and inspect it, but we must have all tools, materials and spare parts. Otherwise, it is the waste of time and the activities that may stop production for a long time or significantly affect quality. It is important that the new observations from the review are added or replaced some points in the TPM. Various discoveries can be made during conservation, and it would be valuable if they help in prevention. Remember how I said that 5S and checklist are mistakenly considered the core of TPM? I agree that checklists are very helpful because they systemize activities very well. The problem with them, but more with implementation them on the production, is that they are often perceived as unnecessary paperwork by operators and created in such a way that they discourage people from working with them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do them. No. I say that they need to be refreshed their appearance, layout a bit, and make them support both experience and the new employees. It's worth indicating the place where the inspection or replacement of parts is carried out, list of tools, parts, and even estimated time needed to perform TPM. Don't let this be a heartless list that you have to check off. Let it be something like a short, specific, and visually guide. But TPM is supported not only by previous mentioned activities, there are also IT systems. And yes, I am aware that this is often costly investment, and I also know from my experience that the potential of these systems isn't always fully used. And I am of opinion that with Excel, creating well thought out and working sheets and the reports, you can manage very well maintenance, tools and spare parts, as well as using SAP. However, there are systems that are worth implementing from the beginning of automation development. It is Andon. One day I will definitely do an episode about it, but today I just want to draw your attention to this system. Its purpose is to inform visually users with a lights on about the problem and call people who can fix it. The group of systems that support production certainly includes SAP and MES, which collect data from machines, productions, area and warehouse, calculate them, and provide the huge scope for analysis and process control. There is also a CMS system that collects information of inspections, failures, spare parts stock levels, and enables the organization the work of maintenance team. No matter how large your production and team is, think about which system is really needed and what really benefits it will give you. Because I noticed that the large company, the more it starts collecting these systems, like artworks on the Windows desktop. It's nice, but often the capability of this system are repeated, and I have often seen situations where the employees entered the same data in the system several times. This not only makes it a waste of time, but also increases the sense of pointless of these activities and even overloads the employee. In addition, this system split out so much data that not every company is prepared to analyze it and use it, because it doesn't even know which of it is important, nor doesn't have the time or people to do it. It's nonsense. Another absurdity is implementation of IT system. Many companies want to speed it up as much as possible, which is understandable, but it doesn't work. The situation becomes a nightmare when the system after system is implemented, or they are implemented in the same time, 2 or more, and none of them are mastered fluent by the teams. And here again, I will come back to preparing appropriate training, but not 1 hour long training, only cyclical view and focus on the actions in the system that will be used every day or frequently. Preparing supporting materials to retrain this knowledge as long as possible, but also testing and checking whether the entered data is correct and the people working with this data and this system understand this system and do things well. This element is often overlooked, and it can lead to numerous mistakes, wrong conclusions, and the wrong decisions. Okay, but how do you know if you take a good care of maintenance that this TPM really works? Thanks to indicators that will show you and your team the effects of your actions in the numbers. Certainly the most important and the most frequently used is overall equipment effectiveness. In production, we know it as OE. Thanks to ongoing monitoring and analysis this indicator, it's possible to clearly determine whether a given machine or production line fully uses its production potential. Okay guys, next indicator is overall plant effectiveness. In manufacturing companies, it is known as OPE, and it is like older brother of OE, an indicator measuring the efficiency of entire factory in terms of its equipment. It is equivalent of OE when transferred to the scale of entire plant. It is usually calculated over a long time period. OPE allows you to look globally at all factors disturbing the operation of machines. When referring to this indicator, it should be remembered that this calculation is often carried out in different ways in different enterprises. Quite often, you can encounter the situation in which global OE is used for calculation for entire plant. What that means, taking into account all those downtimes, including planned ones as losses. Okay guys, the third and last one indicator is overall craft effectiveness. OCE is a measure of effectiveness of maintenance service employees in performing their duties. While OE focuses on measuring the efficiency of machines and shouldn't refer to people, but to whether we can organize the machine's environment well, OCE tells us how efficient maintenance work system is. Okay guys, thank you for today's episode. I really believe that practical information and proven methods will help you implement changes effectively and permanently. check next episode of Manage the Problem podcast. I will also be grateful for any substantive feedback, positive comments, and sharing this episode with others in our industry. I want this podcast to be a value and interesting for you. You can find me on LinkedIn. See you in next episode. Manage the Problem. Natalia Wojtkowiak.